Okay, folks, we are right now live on Facebook, so you guys are joining us. And the question for you is, with our premiere coming out tonight, what would you like to see different about the show? Something you want to see more of, less of, and you don't have to say less of me, I already know that. So if you have a mechanical question or question about mechanics, it's going to be handled by Steve. If you have a question about running the shop, that's clearly Audrey. And if you have a question about, I don't know, I'll take the trivia. So, what are your questions? Yes, sir.
I would have liked to have seen exactly how you did the fabrication work on, I believe it was the Studebaker, that you did that electric steering. I found that absolutely fascinating. Would have liked to have seen more of that. We never saw it on the show.
Process-wise, I think we do fairly well.
Yeah, there was so much done to that car. There's no way we could show in detail everything.
Right, you have to understand that a build like that, if we have 1,000 hours of actual time on the car, that gets boiled down to something like roughly 5 minutes of actual car build time, right? Because remember, the show's only 44 minutes long, divided by 2 because there's 2 cars, 22 minutes, and you have to meet the owner and do everything else. By the time you shave it all down, we have to figure out how to compress 1,000 hours into 5 minutes. So, process-wise, we try and show some, but, and I'm going to ask Steve this. How much engineering goes on that we don't ever get a chance to show anybody that we have to figure out?
About 75% of it,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
The complexity of taking a car like a 60-year-old Studebaker and advancing it to 2017 with modern electronics, you get to see 1 or 2 sort of pieces of the puzzle, and that's really all we have time to show you. Because there might be 20 things we have to do. We might have to increase the power output. You know, those cars had generators. The generators put out 30 amps, 35 amps.
Yeah, not much.
And how much does a generator put out at idle?
No.
Generally 0. So if the customer is going to drive it and have the car at idle a lot, you put electric steering on it, can't even drive the car because it'll basically kill the electrical system. So we have to take all those things into
I
account.
think he's talking about the Burgundy Studebaker, the one that we did that had custom chassis.
Right.
Yeah, that thing had no Studebaker parts on it.
Well, yeah.
That was your nightmare, I think you said.
Well, that car, it was, you realize that the owner of that car was a shop owner, was a custom car shop owner. And so what we had to do was he got to a point where his own shop, they said, we're done. Bring it somewhere else, and that's when he called us. So yeah, the integration on that car was pretty significant. And although we were able to solve most of the problems, there were a few problems on that car that...
There's no way around it. It's just some things that just couldn't be fixed.
Yeah.
Who was the electric steering? Who was the manufacturer of that? You remember?
It came from Australia, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. And the only reason we got it, that was a brand new system just released because of the proliferation of electric vehicles. Things like the Leaf, the Volt, things like that. So that's the only reason that system even existed, because another 2 years before it, not available. That system was just released. Okay. Yes, sir.
I really enjoyed your woodworking sessions, everything from the boat to making that wooden frame or spoke wheel. Awesome. But the question I really have is, I remember the session where you brought in the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a project or is that a display?
Well, you're going on the tour today?
Yeah.
When you finish the tour, you tell me whether it's
I
still a project.
thought I'd seen it up there. Okay.
Yeah. The build of an airplane is a very, very complicated thing, and there's one major difference in the rule between building an airplane and a car. What is that? You remember? Oh, come on.
Well, if an airplane breaks in the air, you can't just stop.
Okay.
No, you stop.
And that's basically the difference. So as a result, see, I am the basically approval authority for the build of the cars. I am not allowed by the FAA to be the approval authority for the build of an airplane. So every step we take has to be inspected by an FAA certified IA, and all the work is done by an FAA certified A&P. So very different rules on building things that go in the air versus things that go on the ground.
But I love the boat too,
Oh, thank you, yeah.
That's awesome.
That was, I think, just a triumphant build. That really was. I mean, you know, TV aside, I'll just tell you that the build of that boat, and Steve, actually, you did the engine. I think you hated that.
I'm not a big fan of boats.
That boat almost killed me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was
Okay.
a point in it, and I actually don't like to talk about what happened because it gives me nightmares. That boat, that was the most dangerous thing we've ever done, and
Hey,
that almost ended everything.
kudos to you guys for that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But I got to tell you, that was like a triumph of spirit and of soul to get that thing done. So thank you. So we will try and do more of that. The time involved in those, that boat was thousands of hours of hand work on wood.
But I also like that when you had to build that wooden spoke wheel, yep, I can't remember what car it was. But
Yeah. We've done that for several cars, Model A's.
steaming wood.
Yeah. Yep.
Question, I never saw that. And
Okay.
I love boats. I'm from New Hampshire and all we have is Chris Crafts all over the place. My question would be, is there a way to go back and see that episode? Did they ever publish where you can go back and review?
You're on Amazon?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so I can just Google and do we have time?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, are all of the series released on Amazon?
It's like $2.99 an episode.
Okay. So they're apparently all available.
Awesome. So if you
Now, ask me how much royalties we get.
Zero.
Yeah, well, you know. Yes, sir.
So, just for my own personal interest, out of all the cars that you built specifically on the show, which one, when completed, not the build itself, but when completed, what was your favorite car?
I know what everybody thinks mine is, but they're wrong.
Which one do we?
Everybody thinks I like that. The hearse would be.
Oh, yeah, because you're a freaking nut.
That wasn't my hearse.
Flamethrower.
Well, wait a second. We fought over that hearse a fair amount.
Oh, I know.
I wanted to kill Steve over the
I
hearse.
did like that car, but it wasn't the favorite one.
What was your favorite?
The first season, we really.
Really?
Yep. Because we didn't restore that car. The car was in that good a shape,
You're right.
and it turned out beautiful.
And the Veely, if you remember, the fuel tank in the Veely, when we opened it up, and I don't know what happened to it because it really bothers me. If you take a sheet of Ghirardelli brownies and you let them sit out for about an extra week or so, they'll dry up just a little bit. That's exactly what was in the bottom of that fuel tank. It looked just like a pan of Ghirardelli brownies, and that was gasoline. Gasoline turned solid again. It had gone from souring to getting like molasses, which is the next stage. It turns into molasses in about 20 years, and then after about 30 or 40 years, it actually becomes a solid again. And the gas in that car was solid, like you couldn't break it solid. Yeah, very fascinating. Now for me, I'll actually tell you that a car that we delivered yesterday, which I won't tell you what it is, but was actually one of my favorites, because it defies all the rules. You would get in this vehicle and expect it to drive like what it looks like, and it drives like it's just something you just got off, the dealership lot yesterday. I mean, and my favorite part, I was with the young lady who the vehicle was built for, and she wasn't, she wanted a 5-speed in it, and so we put a 5-speed in it, and she was sort of getting used to it because she hadn't been driving a 5-speed in years. And I said, "You want to do a burnout?" And she's like, "I don't know how to do a burnout." I said, "Let's do it anyway, And so when this girl let loose on that engine, on that big block, and that clutch, she scared the living crap out of me. I mean, she did. Damn thing was turning sideways, and we're going down the road. I'm screaming at her to stop. And she's like, "Oh, I'm a farm girl. I drive on icy roads." And I'm like, "The hell? You didn't, I was not expecting it." So the fact that the vehicle is that amazing and she loved it that much. In fact, she wrote me 3 times last night to tell me how much she loves the vehicle. Now, that's what makes a build great to me, was having a vehicle just come out that amazing and having someone love it that much. So, very nice.
What got you into this business?
Well, I'm going to let Audrey, because there's 2 businesses here at this point, right? There's FantomWorks, the car build company, and believe it or not, it's almost kind of a separate entity, the FantomWorks, the television show, because that is all-consuming. So I'm going to let Audrey take, why do we do a television show?
I don't know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah.
So you're doing another whole season.
Well, remember, we film an average of 3 seasons simultaneously. We're filming 3 years at the same time. You have to. So, I'll just ask it this way. Has filming the show been easy?
No, not by any means
Steve?
at all.
Because you were here 3 years before the show came out. You were here for a year and a half before the show came out. Did it change the shop?
Yeah, drastically.
Completely,
Did it make it much tougher?
every day.
I mean, is there a comparison between FantomWorks before TV and FantomWorks after?
Like a dream and a nightmare.
So, oh, no, there's no doubt.
It's very clear.
Yeah, the TV show makes it a nightmare. So, what I would say is, the company that started out building cars long before a TV show was ever part of our lives was already, it was tough to do that, right?
Yes.
I mean, was this easier or harder than the job you had before you came here?
Definitely harder.
Yeah. Steve, do you find building cars twice as old as you on average easy or difficult?
I mean, that's what I've done my whole life.
Okay, but but is it easy? Do things always work out the way you expect?
No, they never do.
Yeah, they just never do. And so basically, the challenge for people who want to build cars is, for me, it has to do with kind of making things new again. Like, I hate seeing something thrown away. Folks, I'm a dumpster diver. Have been all my life and will continue to be. I will go into a dumpster and find something somebody threw away just so that I can fix it. I don't care if I want it or not. I will do that just to fix it because I hate seeing good things thrown away because they still have purpose. And I'm the same way with an old car. So that's why I started this company, was I hated seeing cars get sort of discarded just because they had some mileage on them. So that's really, and then I surrounded myself with people who felt the same way, or at least maybe not quite as crazy about it. Are you a dumpster diver?
Yeah, not really my thing.
Yeah, okay, so not for her. But then what happened was the show came in, and the show sort of took on its own life. You know, we still build cars, okay? We are still the same company, and in fact, if anything, I think our quality has gone up. We just keep learning things and keep doing better and better quality. But the degree of difficulty and the degree of work just keeps getting a little bit tougher. Any more?
Kudos for you, because I love the range of your show.
Well, thank you.
I've seen you work on a Maserati, I've seen you do the GTOs and the Camaros and the Mustang, but you also work on an old Plymouth Betty, and that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
I grew up with one of those. So.
Okay, and I'll just tell you what it is. If somebody loves their car enough,
That's it.
look, I will use the example of the worst car ever made on the planet, the Ford Pinto. Worst thing, just a mistake, okay? We owned one. My mom bought a new one in 1974. Was a piece of crap the day it was brand new, and it was a piece of crap the day she sold it, okay? But if somebody loved a Ford Pinto enough, I would help them out with it, even though I despise the car.
That's recorded.
Look, Ford built a lot of great things. That was not exactly. I mean, remember the Ford Pinto? They were terrible. I mean, one of the moments that I'll never forget, my mom and I pulled up to Kmart, and I was, you know, in 1974, I was 12 years old, so I think it's cool to crush things. And I grabbed, there's a soda can in the parking lot. Now, in all fairness, it was tin, not the aluminum, so they were a little bit more stout in 74. But I laid it sideways under the front tire, because when she backed out of the parking spot, I wanted to see a crushed can, because kids want to crush stuff, right? She puts the car in reverse, and she said in the gas, she said, "There's something wrong with my car." And I said, "No, Mom, there's nothing wrong with your car, hang on." And I got out, and I pulled the can out, and then she was able to leave. The car would not crush a soda can. Swear to God, true story. Swear to God. No exaggeration. That's how bad a Ford Pinto was. But I would still help somebody out with one. All right, do we have any questions from the folks online? You don't even know how to do that. You're just staring at us. Yes, sir.
What's more fun, building them or driving them, and do you see your answer changing as the years?
I will always be a guy that enjoys building them. Look, I love driving them. I mean, that 62, the 62
You love
Maserati.
racing them.
Oh, I do love
I
racing.
hate test drives with you.
Who's gonna test
Well,
them out?
I was telling Steve yesterday about what this young lady did to me and scared the. I mean, I actually screamed, "Stop!" because I thought she was going to kill us. And Steve had a comment for me when I told him that.
I was just clapping at her. Good job.
He said he feels like that when he comes out.
How many test drives did we go on?
You're pretty scared.
I've never wrecked a car yet.
You're still really
You
scared.
destroyed a 6-speed transmission in a car that spent its entire life on the racetrack in 15 minutes.
I did.
You know, it's funny, I was watching the show a couple of times, and our daughter Sarah, lived down the street, a couple lots away. And just watching you go from down the street, and I'm thinking, it never clicked that you were here. Until watching you scream up, I've been out of those streets.
I don't remember those thing drag strips. Yeah. Yeah.
So Michael wants to know if we're doing any bikes this season.
That's a good question, now, isn't it?
Steve. Okay, Steve's a pain in the ass. Okay, we all love Steve here.
I resemble that remark.
We had an amazing. Actually, no, wait. I take that back. We did two.
Go ahead.
No. Okay, I won't throw Steve under the bus. Steve does not like cameras in his face. Can I say? Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve was building one bike and he kept scaring the film crew away, so that story sort of died. Now, we are nearly finished with, it isn't just a bike build. I would consider this possibly the most historic and important bike. It is the equivalent to the Model T of motorcycles. So it is a cornerstone bike. And I'll give you one hint. It is a bike designed by the world's greatest bike designers, which are William Harley and Bill Davidson. And
That's enough.
is that enough?
That's enough.
Designed prior to World War II. That's what
All
I
right,
said.
that's enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Rick wants to know, what are your thoughts on putting different brand motors in different cars, like a Chevy and a Ford?
Yeah. Okay. All right. And this is something. Look, I'm going to step on Ford's toes a little bit, but Ford did it. When Ford built all their muscle cars of the past, what fits inside a '68 Ford Mustang? That's it. You can fit a 302 in it, nothing else. Nothing wider than and a 302 barely squeezes in the damn thing. Okay? Chevrolet didn't do that. Chevrolet and Dodge made big engine spaces so that you can put big damn engines in them. Ford didn't. Now, what does a Chevy small block or an LS fit into?
Great thing.
It'll fit into a Datsun, a Honda, a Ford, a Chevy, a Dodge. And so unfortunately, Ford kind of did that to themselves. Now, one last question. What will a Ford Coyote fit into?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Ford Coyote doesn't fit into anything.
Not without a lot of cutting will.
If you want to put a Coyote in a Mustang, which is like a Ford motor in a Mustang, like the all-American Ford car and the all-American engine, it won't fit. You have to chop the entire car in half, throw away everything forward of the firewall, and re-architect and design the entire car. You have to do it. You have to throw away the suspension, the steering, the braking system, the frame system, the battery tray, the core support. Everything has to be thrown in the garbage to fit a Ford engine in a Ford Mustang. Now, I think Ford probably could have designed something that provides power and fits in something. So, I don't like doing it. Unfortunately, we are sometimes driven to do that because do you really have any choices?
No. There's no way we could have shoved a powerful Ford motor into that little baby bird.
That's right. So for those of you who wrote us hate mail and threatened to kill me over putting a Chevy LS into a Ford Thunderbird, Ford gave us no choice. Let me tell you, the LS How easy was that to fit in even?
No, that was a huge thing.
That was a nightmare, and it's half the size of a Coyote. We never, ever, ever put a Coyote in that car. Hear that sound? That's just sexy. Yes?
On all the initial test drives you have taken, which one was the scariest?
Crap to go.
I know you lost brakes on quite a few of them. That's always
Oh, I've had to bring cars to the shop with no brakes at all on them. Which one is the scariest? I'd have to think about that one because there have been a lot of them that were kind of out of control. The which? Oh, the Duchevaux? Oh, that car was scary when it was brand new. I mean, anybody who's got the huevos to drive a Duchevaux, you know, you either have to be incredibly tough or incredibly dumb. Fun cars, but they're just not weird. I mean, you see the way that stupid thing bounced? That's normal for them. They were just, that's an all-terrain vehicle, you know that, right? That car was never designed really for the road. In fact, it sucks on the road. It's way better in the dirt. So I don't know. I've had a few that have scared me, brakes-wise, acceleration-wise, control-wise.
You're a guy who used to fly jets.
Yeah. I've been scared by a few cars, and these guys have both been scared a few times. What's the most scared you've ever been?
When I was in the car with you.
Well, wait. Actually, and it wasn't filmed. I do have one. You remember the blue, what was it, a 72 Challenger we did with the 440?
Yes.
I trucked this car out, and let me tell you, Mopars, I love them. When it comes to torque of a big block Mopar, no engine in the world matches the torque of a big block Mopar. But the Mopars are heavy, and when I say heavy, I mean they are stupid heavy, and they sit way up front. And the ass end of the cars with all that torque coming out of the rear wheels, that's a dangerous combination. And they have a horrible tendency to what's called oversteer, which means you turn right to go around a corner, well, the ass end wants to just keep coming out on you. And I remember we had just finished the build of a 72 with a 440 in it, and this was a very built 440. And they took it around the corner, punching it, expecting to do some drifting. Damn thing spun 180 degrees, and I missed a streetlight pole by, I think, about 2 inches, and put one tire into a ditch. And at that point, it sort of changed the way I drove Mopars from then on. They don't handle like most, even big block Fords and Chevys. They handle very, very differently. So
The same one you had to put on the scales to see how heavy it was?
no, this was long before the show ever came out, and that was one of those times where, you know, when I'm cleaning my own shorts out, it's like, okay, I got to change the way I'm driving. So, yeah, that was it for me. All right, now,
We got one more.
let's do one more question, and then we're gonna.
Get back to your previous comment. Issue was, in the most recent Streetwater magazine, there's an article of a gentleman who put a Ford Camry in a 55 Chevy, and basically the impression I got was a sick it in the face of those people always putting Chevy small blocks in his Ford. I don't know, you would appreciate it, I'm sure, how much work there was to get that big camera in that little, that's half a decent sized plate.
So, are you saying he put a camera in it?
Yes, sir.
Like the SOC, the SOHC camera?
Single overhead cam in a 55 Chevy.
Now, you realize that's maybe the most beautiful engine.
It is.
I would have to debate whether the camera, the SOC, you know, or the 26 Hemi. Which is more beautiful?
They're both nice.
Oh, I know. Go ahead.
It's the Hemi.
She thinks the Hemi's more beautiful. Look, Chevrolet built pretty engines, but quite honestly, Ford and Dodge, I think, built even prettier engines.
409 looks nice.
You're right. The early sort of big block hybrid was a beautiful motor. In fact, we've got a 348 in the shop right now.
There you go.
Gorgeous motor, right? The SOC, though, I mean, it's called a single overhead cam, which is also called the cammer. They took a 426 side oiler, already one of the most potent engines ever made, and then added power to it. Now, that son of a bitch is what? Sorry. What is that, like 42 inches wide,
I think the belt covers are actually bigger than the Hemi belt covers.
Oh, Way, no, there's no comparison. In fact, we've got a camera in the back.
Okay.
And a 26 Hemi. There is no comparison in the size of those two motors.
Maybe next month you'll put a flathead in a Z06, you never know.
We're dealing with a few flatheads right now. Flathead, also another beautiful engine. Ford has really built some beautiful motors. Was it?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, the flatheads are, look, small blocks are pretty, but a flathead
They're cute.
Ford,
They're cute.
yeah,
You want
I'm
real
sorry, I
power,
can't
big
use the word
block. Big
cute.
block all the way, that's it. Enough said.
Big block?
Big
Yeah.
block, no matter what, big block,
Right, you're right.
period.
Big
Torque,
block
torque,
Ford,
torque.
Chevy, or Dodge over the small blocks.
Absolutely. Add a power additor to it and you're good to go.
Yep.
Dan,
All right.
real quick. Personally, overall, over the years, if you had to pick a couple cars, all OEM, just throughout history, what's some of your favorite 2 or 3 or 4 cars of all time?
Okay, the most, and this is where I'm gonna, let me ask you and I'll ask you and then I'll answer it. What's the most beautiful car ever made?
We haven't finished it.
Okay, we haven't finished it, but it's one that we are working on now, so. It's not a long time. I'm gonna give you a hint, she's a Mopar or a 64 Impala. I think they're just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Two-door
There's a story behind it.
Oh.
Yeah, two-door convertible.
His old one.
that he lost.
Yeah.
Someday.
17 years worth of work to see what goes in flames.
That happens. Cars burn. Look, I think overall the Americans have built the most beautiful cars in the world, but there is one car that transcends everything. And that's a Series 1 GT250 GTO Ferrari. And in fact, the one that was sold last year is the one that if I ever win the lottery, I'm buying. It was made, I was born September 7th, 62, and it was the one that was raced, that was actually given to the winner of the Le Mans, 24 hours at Le Mans, and it was made on the 7th of September 1962. And it was auctioned last year for $42 million. Now, if anybody here wants to get me my birthday gift and you have $42 million lying around, I would really appreciate it. I stay here a lot. I just live here. But American cars, I don't know that you can beat the looks of a 63 Corvette no matter what you do. I mean, a 63 split window Corvette is just, they were 20 years ahead of their time, and in fact, I think Corvette has never produced anything as beautiful as that still to this day. So, all right, folks, as far as Facebook Live, we're going to sign off right now. We're going to actually, so, you're still recording me, aren't you?